Hello, my dear students. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sankalp learning classes. So, today we are going to start the chapter that is evolution. So, already we have completed the 5 chapters that comes under the biology. First 5 chapters we have completed. So, this is the 6th chapter in the biology, that is evolution. Yes, so what is the meaning of evolution? Right. So first ನಾವೇನ್ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಎವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ಏನು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಲ್ವಾ. Yes, what is the meaning of evolution? So organisms are evolved from smaller or simple living organisms to the complex living organisms. So then what is the meaning of evolution? ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದಲ್ವಾ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ಸ್ಮಾಲೆಸ್ಟ್ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಇವಾಲ್ವ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ದೆನ್ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಇವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್? ಸೊ ಹಿಯರ್ evolutionary biology is the science of the evolution of life on earth to understand the evolution of flora and fauna over the millions of years on the earth. So here what happened, the flora and fauna, the plants and animals, they evolve from the from many years. They are evolving, so they are changing their body forms, they are adapting for the environment, so like that. So the evolutionary biology that deals with the study of the evolution of life on earth. ಸೊ ನಿಮಗೆ ಲೈಫ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಒರಿಜಿನ್ ಆಯಿತು, ಹೇಗೆ ಅದು ಇವಾಲ್ವ್ ಆಯಿತು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಈ ಇವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ಲಿ ಸೊ ನಾವು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ದೇವೆ. The origin of life is assumed to be yet another event in the history of the universe. But just think about it, how the life originated on earth. So here ನೀವು ಥಿಂಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಲ್ವಾ, ನಾನೇನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ಸ್ಮಾಲರ್ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ, ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಇವಾಲ್ವ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಇವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತೇವೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ದೆನ್ ಹೌ the life that is formed, the first life that is formed on the earth. So here the Big Bang theory that attempts to explain to humans the origin of the universe. So here there is a Big Bang theory that attempts to first how the universe is originated. So what it says, Big Bang theory. The Big Bang theory outlines how the universe came to be. So how the universe is formed. Universe ಹೇಗೆ formation ಆಯಿತು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಸೊ ಈ Big Bang theory explain ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. A massive, then what is the meaning of Big Bang theory? A massive explosion of very dense matter erupts from this singularity point. ಒಂದು small point in the start again agate, a massive explosion. So you can see the massive explosion. So like this explosion agate. So as a result the universe expanded and temperature dropped dramatically. After a while hydrogen and helium were created. Gravitational forces caused the gases to condense. They eventually created the universe's galaxies. So ಈ ತರ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೋಷನ್ ಇಂದ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು. and some gases that is also formed on the earth, and the earth is thought to be have formed approximately 4.5 billion years ago in the Milky Way galaxy of solar system. So earth formed, that is 4.5 billion years ago in the Milky Way of galaxy solar system. Okay, so that is very important, Milky Way galaxy. So this is what the Big Bang theory explains. So how the universe is formed and how the gases and how the earth is formed, that is explained by the Big Bang theory, but it is not accepted by all the scientists. Okay. Then early earth situation. What are the condition of early earth? The earth is formed 4.5 billion years ago. So 4.5 billion years ago earth formation aitu. There was also no atmosphere on a early earth. So what we see now, So our environment, different gases and everything, environment and atmosphere that we can see in earth, so that was not there at that time period. So there was no atmosphere on the early earth. So but the how this atmosphere is formed on the earth: water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane and ammonia emitted by the molten mass envelop the surface. So here some gases are released, that is water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane and ammonia. So these all are emitted. The molten mass also enveloped the surface. The UV radiation from the sun caused water to disintegrate into hydrogen and oxygen. So the early earth that contains the water, but there is no atmosphere. It contains some gases, carbon dioxide, methane and ammonia. And UV radiation from the sun caused the water to disintegrate. So water disintegrate means water H2O that forms the oxygen and hydrogen. Okay, so like this, the hydrogen gas is also released. Because hydrogen gas is lighter in comparison to air, it was able to escape into the space. So this hydrogen gas that is escaped into the space, that is very important. So these all are the early earth condition. So 4.5 billion years ago, then no atmosphere on the earth and some gases are present, and UV radiation that disintegrate the oxygen water into hydrogen and oxygen. Because hydrogen gas is light, so hydrogen gas is escaped. Because hydrogen gas is lighter comparison to the air, it was able to escape into the space. So this was the early earth condition, early earth situation. Okay, then when oxygen got mixed with the ammonia and methane, water and CO2 and other chemical products were created. Here, when the ammonia, which is already present, ammonia and methane, water, carbon dioxide and other chemicals products were obtained. Okay, so when the oxygen is mixed, oxygen is released. When it is mixed with these all things, so the chemical products were created. The ozone layer began to form. So ozone layer form that protects from the organisms from the UV radiation. Water vapor condensed and sprinkled like rain as it cooled, filling up all the depressions, as a result forming the oceans. As a result forming the oceans. Here the water vapor condensed. So when the water vapor condenses, so it forms the rain. So rain ಏನಾಯ್ತು, rain formation ಆಗಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು. And continuous rain that causes the ocean forming, as a result forming the oceans, filling up all the depressions and forming the oceans. The continuous rain that cooled the earth, because the early earth temperature was, that is more than 100 degrees Celsius. Life appeared approximately 500 million years after the world formed. So the first thing is how the earth is formed. After the formation of earth, so the earth atmosphere is created. After the formation of the favorable condition, favorable atmosphere, some organisms are developed, that is 500 million years after the world formed. Okay, so that is how the earth is created, and that is how the water earth atmosphere is formed on the earth. Okay, so then how the life is originated. Okay, so ಈಗ ನಾವೇನ್ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡ್ವಿ, ಅರ್ತ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಒರಿಜಿನ್ ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು, ಹೌ ದ ಅರ್ತ್ ಈಸ್ ಒರಿಜಿನೇಟೆಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಹೌ ದ ಅಟ್ಮಾಸ್ಫಿಯರ್ ಇಸ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟೆಡ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಅರ್ತ್, ದಟ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ studied. But the theories that explain the origin of life, so how the life is originated on the earth. Okay, the first thing is the ancient Greek thought that for some theories, okay, some scientists and some theories that that try to explain the origin of the life. So the first thing is the ancient Greek thought the spores, means living entities, were transported to the various planets including earth. This idea, known as panspermia, it is still believed by many astronomers today. The first theory is panspermia. So, what is this panspermia theory? So, this is proposed by some Greek scientist, or some ancient Greek thought says that spores, something living entities that is transferred to the earth. Okay, so and different planets transferred to the various planets, that is including the earth. So this spores that created the life on the earth, that is the first thing, how the life is originated, the theory that explained how the life is originated on the earth, that is the panspermia. Then for a long time it was assumed that life could emerge from decaying and rotting materials such as straw and mud. So here some scientists or some people, they believed that many years, the people believed that decaying and rotting materials, they they are responsible for the origin of the life, because they observed some if you keep some material outside, or some meat or any organisms dead body, so they observed some organisms, some small organisms develop on that body. So they thought that the organisms, they are evolving from the dead organisms or rotting materials like that. Okay, but that was completely wrong. This was the theory of spontaneous generation. Okay, so this theory, the life that is originated, that emerged from decaying and rotting materials, that theory is called as theory of spontaneous generation. Theory of spontaneous generation. Okay, but this theory that is disapproved by the Louis Pasteur experiment, Swan neck experiment. So let us see how this spontaneous generation, theory of spontaneous generation, is dismissed. So, what is the Louis Pasteur's experiment? Experiments have demonstrated that the life can only arise from existing life. So, what he explained, life arise from the pre-existing life only. Okay, not from the rotting or dead and decaying materials. He illustrated that life did not arise from killed yeast in the sterile flask before the experiment, and simultaneously when a similar flask was exposed to air, new living beings emerged from the dead yeast. So you can see the experiment here, Louis Pasteur's swan neck experiment, which disapproves the theory of spontaneous generation. So what it says, theory of spontaneous generation, that says the life that arise from the dead and rotting materials. So here two types of the conditions you can observe. So here he used the yeast, killed yeast. So life that is not arising from the killed yeast, that he proved. So in this swan neck experiments, what he observed, so this structure you can see, that is the swan neck experiment, right? So here he kept the killed yeast, and when the air enters to this swan neck flask, the airborne organisms or small living organisms, they will tap in this region and they remain in this region only sterile air that enters into the flask. So he observed that there is no formation of life inside the flask. So when the sterile air is entered, okay, sterile air means without any living organisms. So this dead is that is not producing the any new organisms, and here he kept it open, and the microorganisms present in this air. So when they enter into the flask, they create the new life. But here also he used the dead organisms, dead yeast, but the microorganisms which are present in the air, that is responsible for the formation of the life in this flask. Okay, so from this experiment he disapproved the theory of spontaneous generation, and he proved that life originate from pre-existing life. Okay, so as an outcome, the theory of spontaneous generation, that is rejected. Okay, so that is what the Louis Pasteur's experiment is. Okay, then chemical evolution. So the some scientists, they used how the life is origin. They explain by some chemicals, means some chemicals, they are responsible for the origin of life. They explain that. Okay, Oparin and Haldane's theory of life's origin. So the scientists, they proposed the chemical evolution, that is Oparin and Haldane. Oparin from Russia and Haldane from England postulated that the first forms of life evolved from the pre-existing or non-living organic molecules like RNA, protein, etc. So what they said, Oparin from Russia and Haldane, they proposed that living organisms, they are formed by non-living organic molecules like RNA, protein, some chemicals. Chemical evolution, or the formation of various organic materials or molecules from the inorganic components, traces the emergence of the life. So this chemical evolution, so what it explains, the living organisms are formed by pre-existing living organism, pre-existing um, some organic molecules. So in the year 1953, Stanley Miller, an American physicist, demonstrated the same in the laboratory setting. So that he set up the early Earth's environmental condition. So here in the year 1953, Stanley Miller experiment proved that the chemical evolution, the life that is originated from some chemicals like RNA and proteins, organic molecules, you can say. So Illodi, Stanley Miller experiment. So he created the, so in the year 1953, he created the same condition. So that is same as the early earth condition. ಲ್ಯಾಬೋರೇಟರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಅರ್ಲಿ ಅರ್ತ್ ಯಾವ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇತ್ತು ಅದೇ ಒಂದು ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ದ ವೆದರ್ ವಾಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೀಮ್ಲಿ ಹಾಟ್. Volcanic storms were natural disasters that happened when the volcano erupts, decreasing the amount of ammonia and methane in the atmosphere. So they releases the ammonia and methane in the atmosphere. In the year 1953, Stanley Miller, an American scientist, created the same condition in the laboratory. He created an electric discharge in a closed flask to mimic the conditions of early earth. As a result, temperature rose 8000 degrees Celsius. So he created the same situation that is similar to the early earth, but the earth temperature was very high, that is about 800 degrees Celsius, right? So 800 degrees Celsius, that is created by the electric discharge, so in a enclosed flask. So here you can see the electrodes and electric discharge that create the 800 degrees Celsius temperature. Okay, that is similar to the early earth. Then gases like methane, hydrogen and ammonia and water vapor, water vapor were used inside the flask. So here inside the flask, methane, ammonia, water and hydrogen are used because these all gases and these all chemicals were present in the early earth condition. Okay, so then what he observed, he observed the formation of amino acids. So amino acids means they are the basic of proteins, right? So amino acid that forms the protein is responsible for the different characters, right? So different appearance of the organism. So he observed that the formation of the some amino acids, and it says that the life is originated. So that is the chemical evolution, some chemicals that are responsible for the formation of life and the evolution of life. Okay, so that is what the chemical evolution, this diagram that is very very important for your board exam. Okay, so which are all the gases used, and what is the temperature of the early earth, so that is very important. Okay, so then what is the assumption of chemical evolution? Miller observed that the synthesis of amino acids from the simple inorganic compounds, so he created the condition that are assumed to be exist on early Earth. So, in identical test, other scientists observed the formation of sugar, nitrogen bases, pigments, and lipids. So, if they conduct the some other test on this experiment, so they observed that some other chemicals also formed. So, that is formation of sugars, nitrogen bases, pigments, and some lipids. Okay. Then, comparable chemicals have been discovered in the meteorite samples, and this implies that similar processes occurring in the regions of the space. So, same chemicals that found in the meteorite samples also. So, they assumed that the same processes that occur on the earth for the formation of the new organisms or origin of the life. Okay, so that is what the chemical evolution proposed, and Stanley and Miller experiment that is proposed. Okay. Next thing is, next topic, theory of natural selection and origin of species. So the theory of natural selection that is mainly proposed by the Charles Darwin, right? So what is natural selection and what is origin of life? So the Charles Darwin, the scientist Charles Darwin, he proposed that the life, how the life is originated, and the first thing is natural selection based on observation created during the round the world voyage in the sailing ship called HMS. So he took the voyage around the world by using the sail ship that is called as HMS Beagle. Okay. So the first thing, the scientist who took the voyage around the world by using his sailing ship that is called as HMS Beagle. Okay. Charles Darwin evaluated the currently and existing life forms share different levels of similarity not only between themselves but also with life forms that occurred millions of years ago. So he observed a number of organisms around the world, and he observed some similarities in the organisms, and not only living forms of organisms, some extinct organisms also show some similarities to the living form of these organisms. So most of these life forms have become extinct. Then numerous life forms have perished in the past range of reasons. New forms of life have emerged at various times throughout the Earth's history. So here, what he observed, different new organisms are formed, and some organisms they are extinct. Okay, but they share some similar characters, and new forms of life have emerged in the different condition. He thought that the life forms they arise in the different conditions of earth. By these all things, finally, what he proposed the survival of the fittest. So, so Darwin defined fitness as the ability to respond to the change. As a result, only the most powerful creatures survive and produce more offspring than the others. So, what is the meaning of survival of the fittest? Survival of the fittest means the stronger one, which is able to adjust with the environment, which is able to adjust with the surrounding, that is only able to survive. As a result, the most powerful creatures they survive, and which is not powerful, that is destroyed. Okay, so that is the reason for the extinction of some organisms. They are unable to cooperate with the changes that occur in the nature also, and some other things. As a consequence, they have higher chance of survival and are thus selected by the nature. He referred to it as a natural selection. So what is the meaning of natural selection? So the remaining one, the survival one, that is have higher chance of um, adjust with the nature, the organism which is having the higher chance of adjusting with the nature, so that is able to survive and thus selected by the nature. So that is called as the natural selection. So the first thing is what he observed: survival of the fittest and the natural selection. Okay, natural selection means that is selected by the environment. So these two are responsible for the evolution according to the this scientist, that is Charles Darwin. Alfred Wallace, a naturalist working in the Malay archipelago at the time, reached a similar conclusion. So here the scientist named Alfred Wallace, and so on which island he worked, that is Malay archipelago, he also reached the similar conclusion that planets geological as well as biological histories are intimately connected. Here the organisms or life forms that is present on the earth, that is because of the some geological changes that occur on the earth, and so these life forms and geological forms of the earth, they are intimately connected. So that he proposed. Okay, so that is the theory of natural selection. So that is by the Charles Darwin. Then what are the evidences for evolution? So how we can, so there are many theories they propose that the life is originated and evolution, everything they proposed, but what are the evidence, how we can say the evolution is done, evolution is occurring on the earth, evolution is going on the earth, so how we can say? So evolution ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಇವಾಲ್ವ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಸೊ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಹೇಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಅಲ್ವಾ? The first thing is paleontological evidence, means the evidence from the fossils. So paleontology means that is the evidence that is from the fossils. What is the meaning of fossils? That is the hard remnants of living things discovered in rocks are known as fossils. The hard things, the hard remaining things from the living beings, so that is found in the rocks are known as fossils. Numerous aged rock sediments contain fossils of a wide range of life forms that most likely died during the sediment formation. So paleontological evidence ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು? So here we can say the some living organisms they are discovered in the rocks are known as fossils. So these fossils they show they give the evidence for the evolution. So numerous aged rock sediments contain fossils of wide range of life forms that most likely died during the sediment formation. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆಡಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಅದ್ರ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಸೇರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಏನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ಒಂದು ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ನಾವೇನ್ ಹೇಳ್ಬಹುದು, ಪೇಲಿಯಂಟೊಲಜಿಕಲ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಆ ಫಾಸಿಲ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ನಾವೇನ್ ಹೇಳ್ಬಹುದು, ಸೊ ದ ಇವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಆನ್ ದಿ ಅರ್ತ್. They are skeletal remaining of the extinct animals. So, for example, dinosaur. So, investigating distinct sedimentary levels wherein fossils were discovered can help the determine the geological period in which they were discovered. So, we can discover the in which geological period they were present and different sedimentary layer. ಸೊ ಆ ಸೆಡಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಲೇಯರ್ ಅನ್ನ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಸೊ ಅದು ಯಾವ ಒಂದು ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಇತ್ತು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಫೈಂಡ್ ಔಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ದ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕವರ್ಡ್ ದಟ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಇವಾಲ್ವ್ ಬಟ್ ಸರ್ಟೇನ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ವರ್ ರಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಟು ದ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಜಿಯಾಲಜಿಕಲ್ epochs. So the certain living organisms, so they are restricted to the particular region only, that also we can observe using this paleontological evidence. As a result, new forms of life are thought to have originated at various times throughout the earth's history. So paleontological evidence refers to all of this, so the fossils that is found in the rocks, and we can say that the organisms they are formed in the different time period of the earth's history. Then embryological support for the evolution. Then what is the meaning of embryology? If you observe the developing embryo of the different organisms, you can find the some similarities. Okay, so that also support for the evolution means the complex body form of the life that is formed by the simple living organisms. So this evolution shows that the living organisms they are formed by the simple living organisms. Okay, so Ernest Haeckel postulated this evidence as an evolution based on the analysis of some similar features in all animals during their embryonic period that is absent in adulthood. So this embryological support for evolution that is proposed by the scientist Ernest Haeckel. Okay, so in this theory, some organisms during their embryological development, during their developmental stage, they show some similar features. Okay, for example, so that is not present in the adulthood, only in the embryonic development only we can observe that all vertebrate embryos which include human embryos develop a line of vestigial gill slits directly beneath the head. So, including the human embryos, we can observe the vestigial gill slits. So, what it indicate? Gill slits that is mainly meant for the respiration, right? So, according to this embryological evidence, so this gill slits, so that is for the respiration in the aquatic mode. But what we can say here, the organisms which are living on terrestrial mode, so they evolved from the aquatic mode. ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಾ? ಸೊ ಅಕ್ವೆಟಿಕ್ ಮೋಡ್ ಇಂದ ಅದೇನಾಗಿದೆ ಟೆರೆಸ್ಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ ಮೋಡ್ಗೆ ಇವಾಲ್ವ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಸೊ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸೇ ದಿಸ್, we can take it as an embryological evolution, support for the evolution. It is only seen in highly functional organ in fish. So this gill slit that is functional in fish, so that is for the respiration. The gills do not exist in any other adult vertebrates. So gills are not present in other vertebrates like mammals. But so Ernest, so he ignored and disapproved the embryological evidence after through a thorough investigation. So the another scientist, he observed some other features, so that is related to the embryological support for evolution, but strongly he disapproved this embryological support for the evolution. He discovered that the links formed in embryos are never preserved in the adult stages of other beings. So this is how the embryo that supports for the evolution. Then evidence from comparative anatomy and morphology. So if you see some anatomy of some organs or some morphology of some different organs, you can see some similarities, some differences. So that supports the evolution. So comparative anatomy and morphology that demonstrate the similarities and differences between living creatures. So, for example, divergent evolution. So, what is this divergent evolution? So, here you can see the limbs of different vertebrates, that is whale, frog, horse, lion, human, and the bird. Okay. So, what is the similarities you can find here in these all organs? So the forelimbs perform different function in these animals. So here in case of whale, that is used for swimming, and frog for different purpose, and in horse, in bird. So these forelimbs, they are used for the different purpose. But here in case of bird, the forelimbs are modified into wings, right? They are here you can see the different functions in the forelimbs, but you can see the similar anatomical feature. You can see the humerus, radius, ulna, carpels, and metacarpels. So these are these things, carpels and metacarpels. So that are similar. So anatomically similar structure that you can see. And this is the radius and ulna. So these two features that you can see in lion, human, and so here also radius and ulna you can observe. This is also same structure. And humerus. So these all structures are similar. Okay, anatomically almost similar, not exactly, uh, but similar features that you can observe, but they are performing the different functions. Here, for these all organisms, they are performing the different function using these four limbs. So here what we can conclude, so this is the divergent evolution, and these structures are homologous structures. Homologous structures means we can call these all structures as a homologous structures, which has the similar anatomy but they perform the different functions. So this is example for the divergent evolution. So other example for the homologous organs, that is vertebrate hearts and brains. So in plants also, the thorn and tendrils of bougainvillea and cucurbita represents the homology. So here also in plant also you can observe the divergent evolution. So that is in bougainvillea, thorn that is for the protection, and tendril that is for the support, but their origin is same. So they have the same origin, that is the axillary buds. So axillary buds, they develop into tendril, and here axillary bud that will develop into thorn. Okay, so that is example for the divergent evolution. So what we can conclude, the same structures, anatomically similar structure, so they are performing the different functions according to the need of that organism. Next one, convergent evolution. So here, what is example for the convergent evolution? You can see the bird and butterfly wings. You know, the bird wings and the butterfly wings. So both are doing the same function. What is the function of wings? That is for the flying, right? So that is for flying. But if you see the anatomical features of these wings, both the wings of the butterfly and wings of the bird, so they show the different anatomy. So these organs, the wings of the birds and wings of the butterfly, they are called as, so they are called as analogous organs. Analogous organs means so structurally, anatomically different, but they perform the same functions. So here many examples you can take. So this is also called as convergent evolution, means they are performing the same functions. Many animals such as octopus and mammals have eyes. So these eyes, they are anatomically different in case of octopus also, and mammals also, that is anatomically different, that is, but it is performing the same function, that is called as the vision. Okay, and penguins and dolphins have flippers, so they have anatomically different structure, dolphins and penguins flippers, but here they are performing the same functions. And one more example, sweet potato is a root adaptation, but the potato is the stem adaptation. So sweet potato and potato both are performing the same function, that is the storage of the food. Storage of the food is the function. And so this is example for the convergent evolution. So here these examples and definition is very important. What is convergent evolution and examples, and what is divergent evolution and examples. So these are very important for your exam. Then evolution by natural selection. So here very simple example. So a typical scenario is a variation in a moth population frequency in England in the year 1850. So evolution by natural selection. How the moth population is decreased and some moth population that is increased due to the environmental changes or environmental pollution, you can say. So before the industrialization, white winged moths were more common on branches than the dark winged moths. So here in the first picture you can observe the two types of the moths. So one is white winged moth and one is the dark winged moth. Okay, but before the industrialization, means before 1850 or yes, before 1850 or around 1850, you can say. Before industrialization, the white-winged moths were more. What is the reason behind this? But the ratio was changed of in the year 1920. Around the year 1920, the ratio of these white-winged moths were less compared to the dark-winged moths. So in the year 1920. So why these changes occurred? So that is because of the industrialization. Okay. So what happened after the industrialization? Before the industrialization, there was less pollution. So because of less pollution, lichens were more. So when the lichens were more, so they formed the white background on the tree bark, right? So they form the white color background on these trees, and these white winged moths, so they were not detected by their enemies. So because of the same background, so this body color is also white and this tree color is also white. So because of this reason, these were not found by enemies. But after the industrialization, what happened? So these black winged moths were reversed, their number is reversed, because after the industrialization, the lichens were they're not growing on the these polluted areas. So because of that, the tree bark that will become dark in color. So in contrast background, so that is the black color background, right? So this is the white color moths, so they are easily captured by their enemies because of the contrasting background. So but the one thing is, these black winged moths were, they are not identified by their enemies. So because of this reason, but here these black winged moths, they were identified by their enemies. So this number are less before the industrialization, but after the industrialization, the number is reversed because of this reason. Okay, so this is called as, this is example for the evolution by natural selection. So very important for 3 marks. Write an example for natural evolution by natural selection. So that is very important. Then one more evidence for evolution, that is evolution by anthropogenic action. So what is the meaning of anthropogenic action? So here anthropogenic action means some human activities. Okay, so the overuse of herbicides, pesticides and other chemicals has resulted in the selection of resistant variants on much smaller time scale. So anthropogenic actions mean some chemicals, herbicides or pesticides that is used by the farmers, or this has also been observed for microorganisms for which antibiotics or drugs are used. As a result, resistance in organisms emerged over months or years rather than the centuries. So these are the instances of anthropogenic evolution. So it is because of the random chance or events in the nature as well as random mutation in the organism. Anthropogenic action means, so that is the sudden change or some chemicals, or that is not a similar natural thing. Okay, that is a sudden changes, so or mutation, so that will cause the evolution. So that is the example for the anthropogenic action. Then the important topic, that is the adaptive radiation. So evolution by adaptive radiation. Then what is adaptive radiation? So here adaptive means adaptation to the environment. So here adaptive radiation refers to the process of evolution of new species in a particular terrestrial area that begins at a point and spreads to a different areas of geography. So here the one very good example for adaptive radiation, that is Darwin pinches. Okay, so Darwin pinches, that is very good example for the adaptive radiation, and Australian marsupials. So here, so in a particular island, Darwin observed, why it is called as the Darwin pinchers, because Darwin observed some types of pinchers that is only present in the basically present in the particular island. Okay, so that is the Galapagos island. Just imagine this is the Galapagos island, and he observed some types of beaks in birds. So that is meant for some only for some uh, insect eating bird. Okay, so the beak is, that is for the insect eating beak. Okay, so but when these birds are moving migrated to the different parts of this island, so just imagine where the flowers are more. So in this island, in this region of this island, flowers are more, and in some part of this island, so the cactus is more, so like that. So these basic the basic birds, they are moving to the different parts of these islands. But so after some years what he observed, so they are adapted to that region and they modified their beaks. Okay, to suck the nectar and to eat the some insects. So like that insectivorous beak and nectar licking eat beak, so like that. So these beaks are modified. Okay, so starting from the point, they are developing into different types of beaks because of their surrounding environment. So that is called as the adaptive radiation. That is the original meaning of the adaptive radiation. So here he noticed a few species of pinches, or it is also famously called as Darwin pinches, on that island. All of the species he saw had evolved on the island. They were essentially modified with seed eating characteristics. The basic characteristic is, for example, seed eating character. Okay, the beak is responsible mainly for the seed eating. Many other types evolved from this with different beaks based on the food habitat. So the organism, the birds where they migrated, so which type of food is available in that region, based on that they modified their beaks. Means next generation, not that one. After some years, the next generation birds, they modified their beaks according to their habitat. Okay, this enabled them to evolve into insect eating and vegetarian pinches. So here you can observe the different types of pinches in birds, so that is originated from the single type of the insect eating bird. Okay, and Australian marsupial, that is also example for the adaptive radiation. So there is a marsupial radiation you can see. So in Australia, so these all organisms, for example Tasmanian wolf, tiger cat and kangaroo and bandicoot koala, so these all organisms, they are they originated from the same organism. So that is the example for the adaptive radiation, that is the marsupial radiation. Okay, so an Australian marsupial was discovered in Australia. That count of marsupials had evolved from the geological stock. Means from the single organism. So the many different organisms are evolved based on their habitat. Okay. Concurrent evolution occurs when more than one versatile radiation appears to have occurred in a distinct topographical range. So here different organisms like a placental well-evolved creatures were too visible in Australia to exhibit the versatile radiation. So here you can see the different types of the organisms they developed when they moved to the different regions of the um, different regions. Okay, so these two are very good example for the adaptive radiation. Okay, yes, I hope this topic is clear. The remaining one I will cover in the next class. Thank you.